Hey guys, in this episode of the Speak Easies, the universe has actually made us believe in something false.
That would change everything.
I know that I know nothing.
Alright guys, what's up? This is another episode of the Speak Easies, and today I just wanted to bring to light an idea I read in this book I've been reading, A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking, the late Stephen Hawking, unfortunately. But you guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but you know how there's many laws of physics, you have your laws of Newton's laws of physics, you have thermodynamics.
It's one of those things that
thermodynamics.
I know personally, it's one of those things that I'm aware of, but I don't really know the entirety of it. But I know what you're talking about.
I am not as informed as Polo is. He's the aerospace guy. I only took one class and barely passed the AP exam.
That's fine. You passed. But anyway,
Barely.
now, what Mr. Hawking mentioned in this is all these theories are partial, They're not a unified theory on how the world works or a unified law on how the universe works, right? They're all different. You have special theory of relativity, which is not connected to Newton's theories of gravity, which are not connected to like thermodynamics and all these other this stuff. They're all different entities into which we use, and they're all situational. We use Newton's gravity for slow moving objects, then we have to move into relativity, Einstein's theories of relativity when we're getting closer to the speed of light.
Okay.
But Stephen mentions that
I like how you're on a first name basis with this guy.
Yeah. Okay. He's touched me, man. Anyway, if we ultimately find a way to combine these theories into a unified theory of how the universe works, we never know if it'll be completely true. Because if there is a central single unified theory on how the world works, that must mean that it governs how we think and how we've gathered our data to create that theory, and it could have governed it to have led us to create a theory that is wrong.
You're saying that once we find out the truth controls us.
Yes, basically, if I'm interpreting you correctly.
So for the physics layman like me, if you will, how would you say this affects? Like for me, I'm a political science major. I'm not really a physics guy. So how would something like this affect my life per se? Not that it isn't already, but just explain that to me, because I, like a lot of our listeners, maybe we might not grasp the hugeness of what that is, of what that means in our lives.
No. If talking about the political science major, I'm going to unfortunately, I'm not sure about how it will affect maybe politics per se, but maybe I think this would relate to you more, maybe like psychology and how people work, right?
Right.
Now, if we were to think of a unified theory on how the world works, essentially that would mean that theory, the laws of how the universe works, affect how we think of our own laws of ourselves. And everything we have thought to been true may have been false, because the universe has actually made us believe in something false, if that makes sense.
I think I see what you're saying. And that's where that's where physics and science starts to really drive my head crazy, because the fact that something like that could be true, that would change so much. I mean, maybe that would change everything, right? In the science world, if it proved it all wrong. And I think that just I can't understand that, I can't grasp that, but that's interesting.
Here's what I think. Anyone can say anything as long as there is no proof for it or against it. So when the brilliant Mr. Hawking suggests something like, the closer we get to discovering the truth about the universe, the more the universe controls the way we interpret the truth, that I just I don't think I'll ever be able to find any proof against it, but I don't think I'll ever be able to find any proof for it. So I don't understand how we're
Well, see,
supposed to accept it.
I
well,
think
see, it's not. It's more. It's not really. It. We know it's controlling us, but we will never know the truth. Is what he's trying to say here.
Even when we know the truth.
Yeah, we may think we know the truth, and we will have like a complete and utter belief of the truth, but if there are universal laws like that, then we will never actually know. Well, we will. It might not be the truth. If you want, I can read the passage here where he talks about it. So the ideas about scientific theories outlined above assumed we are rational beings who are free to observe the universe as we want, and to draw logical deductions from what we see. In such a scheme, it is reasonable to suppose that we might progress ever closer to the laws that govern our universe. Yet, if there is really a complete unified theory, it also presumably determine our actions, and so the theory itself would determine the outcome of our search for it. And why should it determine that we come to the right conclusions from the evidence? Might it not equally well determine that we draw the wrong conclusion or no conclusion at all?
so it's sort of like that idea that in science, every theory or every idea, it's correct up until it isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like we do more research and more
Yes.
research, and it's oh well, what we thought we knew, turns out we were totally wrong. I mean, obviously you have that with there's the famous example of a lot of Europeans believing certain theories about the galaxies and the universe and how it all works around us, and then it took I think it was the 1600s when we started to get a real idea of what the universe was like. And just I think that's what I think of immediately when you were talking about that. And it's a bit more complex than I said in history wise. It's a bit more complex than that, but I think that's just what I think of immediately. We think we know
Oh yeah,
something about the world, and then we could be totally wrong.
yeah,
Polo,
definitely.
could you read, I think, the last paragraph of that passage again? Could you read like the last 4 sentences then?
All right, so really, it says, in such a scheme, it is reasonable to suppose that we might progress ever closer towards the laws that govern our universe. In that, he's talking about like a central, unified,
Theory
single law or theory. Yes,
that identifies every rule,
yeah,
every motion,
then
every action.
concatenates every law of physics ever.
Okay, continue.
Now, yet, if there really is a complete unified theory, it would also presumably determine our actions. And so the theory itself would determine the outcome of our conclusions, the outcome of our search for it. And why should it determine that we come to the right conclusions from the evidence? Might it not equally well determine that we draw the wrong conclusion or no conclusion at all?
I keep searching for ways to counter this, but I don't think. Here's what I say. Why should the theory, which is not a living object, it's just if it is a single rule that encompasses all of motion and all of life, why would it? Because presumably, to use the word presumably as he did, why should it have a will?
Well,
If it has no consciousness, why would it decide to keep us from it? I don't think it's capable of deciding anything.
wait, you're saying, how is it possible that it can control how we think?
I think if it controls how
Or
we think, if it's a unifying theory that controls how we think would act within the boundaries of that theory, and as such, the more we think about the theory, the closer we would get to truth. And I don't see how it would make us not closer to that truth.
see that this topic is borderline between, is religion real or not? We're not going to go
I think
there.
religions are real.
I think
Well, yes, but
it's sort of
like
dramatic.
we're not going to go into
I
that.
think here's what I was thinking earlier. I thought of how different the world of physics is from the world of history, because in history we draw conclusions, we do research, or I say we as if I'm a part of like the historian field, but historians and
Yes.
archaeologists, they do research and they study, and their research is how they draw to conclusions. You find out something about a society, and then you find out this, and you find out about various facts about a society, and you're able to make these conclusions, and they all work together, all these facts. And it isn't really that you learn things that this might disprove everything we know about history. For the most part, it's not like that. And what I'm hearing from you is that physics, there is a good chance that, or maybe not a good chance, but there is that chance that everything we know is wrong the more we learn.
Well, actually, I think it's related to the histories in that sense that we will technically really never know what life was like back then
Yeah.
until we go there. And likewise with physics, we will never understand completely how the universe works in a unified theory, because that theory may just change how we think about itself,
Do you think
We can
I
always
think I
further
think that's just
our knowledge, but we'll never get to the complete and 100% truth.
I think that's just a simple numbers thing at this point. Like the more things you learn, naturally the more things you learn, the higher probability, or the higher the percent of those things that you've learned is wrong. That's just the way it goes, I guess.
Well, I would say the more knowledge you gain, this goes for history and STEM as well, but the more you learn, the harder it is to get closer to the complete picture. With history, let's take, I don't know, the Romans for example.
Ooh.
We might not know what life was like for the Romans, like 100%, because we weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
We may gather all this information about it, but ultimately we can't visualize and we can't think about how life was really like to the atom.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
But don't you think that knowing something, even if that something is wrong, is at least better than knowing nothing? Because knowing nothing almost guarantees that your assumptions about something will be wrong. If you know something about something, then it's not. It's. I guess the chance lowers of you being wrong about the way something was.
Is it this is sort of branching it off, but would you say it's true that we're never really going to fully know exactly everything about the universe? Because as humans, I believe we interpret things up to the third dimension. And I was watching somewhere that, there's a fourth dimension, and we will never be able to
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
space and
time.
time.
know
Yes.
what that means because we can't interpret it.
Well,
Is that true?
I haven't gotten too far into this book, but it does talk about space and time. Really, there are four dimensions. If you think about it, time is the fourth dimension, but anything beyond that is, you know,
It is. I don't. I think this just brings everything to a close. In that, will we ever be able to truly understand something unless we experienced it firsthand? Because our
Exactly.
senses are limited unless we're using all of them in a given moment and remembering that moment exactly as it
reminds
was.
me, this whole topic has reminded me of the, I believe it was Socrates who said, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing at all."
yes.
I think
I
that
know that I
pertains
know
to
nothing.
what Polo was saying perfectly, because
I think we've actually gone backwards then from knowing what we knew at the beginning of the episode. In 16 short minutes, we've learned we now know less.
yeah, it's been a shorter episode, but it's been good talk. I think I learned something. I hope you guys learned something that was really informative. I still don't know that much about physics, but that's okay because I don't plan.
I don't think it's really a
It's sort
physics
of
topic,
scientific.
but
I think
Yeah,
it's a
it's
philosophical
science
topic.
I thought it was
It's a
interesting.
universe
science
topic.
philosophy, and that's a good thing to talk about.
Yes.
I hope you guys all had a good time listening to this. Do you guys have any closing statements?
Nope. All I know is
I know
nothing at all.
that I know nothing. There it is.
All right. Hopefully, you guys know a little more. Thanks for listening. Catch us next time.